There will be the punishment of the sinners. They will be taken to task. They will stand before this supreme court of heaven and this almighty judge one day and answer for everything that is wrong, done wrongly by them, and receive the just punishment from God. I desire that.
We give you all the glory. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you alone. You are worthy. You are Alpha. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you alone. You are worthy to be
God's justice is always at work. Some people say, well, brother, when is Jesus going to come? When the judgment, when they're going to stand there? I'm going through all this, Where is he coming? When is he going to do? When is he going to take vengeance? Do what is right for me. I've been wronged. I feel like I ought to go out and take vengeance myself. Take it in my hand. That's wrong. In this world, you won't take it in your hands. You won't take the law in your hands. You'll go to the court, and even if it takes 20 years, you'll wait for the court to come out with a verdict on your case to reach justice for yourself. The same way, you don't go take it on you. God has so many ways of the making it right business, the vengeance, not only happens in the final judgment, it happens right here on this earth in so many ways. That's why the Bible says, do not be mocked. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 6 and 7, it says, do not be mocked, for God is not, do not be deceived, for God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man shall sow, that he will also reap. So if you're going to sow, you'll reap. You're going to reap what you sow. When you reap what you sow, you'll find out that you get repaid for all the wrongs that is done. In that way, many people reap. It's a law of God that God has set in motion in this world, that whatever you sow, you reap. And the same verse, the following verse says, if you sow unto the flesh, you will reap to the flesh. You will sow unto the spirit, you will reap to the spirit. In other words, if you sow bad things, you're going to reap bad things. If you sow good things, you're going to reap good things. This is a law of God. It works in so many ways. So avenging is happening by that law of God that is established in this world, where whatever a man sows, that he reaps. That will happen for sure. That is one consolation, right? If a man is sowing bad things, then he will certainly reap. Don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be in a hurry to take it on your hand to do something about it. God's law is there. In this natural world, it's working. There's another verse also, it says, with the same measure you measure, it shall be measured unto you. Give and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men pour into your bosom. Oftentimes we only hear it during the offering. Well, it applies to the offering also, but it's not just the offering verse. It's a verse that applies to all kinds of things. The Bible actually, when it talks about, it talks about a lot of things. It's talking about judging others and you get it back. How? Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, Because you gave it, you hit a person, he's going to go get 10 more people and come and hit you like you've never imagined, And if you don't realize that, and you're being very foolish, if you don't realize that. It's going to happen. It's going to come back to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, all over, That's the way it is. But then there are other ways also. In Romans chapter 13, we are told, the first few verses are very interesting, I've taught it in my Romans series. In Romans chapter 13, it's talking about how all law derives from God. We have law and order, we have police, we have courts, we have judges, and so on. Officials and authorities in this world who have power to take care of the law and order of this country and so on. All law is derived from God, it says. There is no law that has come apart from God. God wants this order. Therefore, God says if a man disobeys officials who are there in power, whether they are Christians or not, saved or not, doesn't matter. Law and order must be maintained. Therefore, if you disobey an official and his order, you are disobeying God because the official gets his order from God. That's the way Romans chapter 13 puts it. So when a magistrate sits there in a court and orders a punishment on a guy who has done some kind of a crime, some kind of an evil, nobody calls it bad, Even when he orders a killing, when he says, hang him, nobody calls it bad because that is the thing. The judge has gone through the thing and it's a right. That is the vengeance. Vengeance is administered through the government, through the law of the land. You think that vengeance is bad? That vengeance is good. That's proper. It's only right. If there is no such vengeance, that's when you'll be in trouble, So God says, so think about it in the right way, because people are turned off as soon as you say vengeance. Oh my God, God is vengeful God, They think that when we say vengeance of God, they think God is vengeful as human beings are vengeful. They're full of vengeance, that it's a different kind of vengeance. But God is not like that. So, you looked at the words here in this verse. The words are like this: Beloved, do not avenge yourselves. Now you understand it. But rather give place to wrath, and you understand that. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. But what is the teaching here? The teaching is this, very simply. Never seek personal vengeance. That's what the teaching is, basically, and I'll explain it. Never seek personal vengeance. Why not? Why shouldn't I seek personal vengeance? Because it is God's job. It is not our job. Why not? Why can't it be my job? Why can't I? I've been wronged. Someone did something against me. Why shouldn't I seek vengeance for the wrong that is done to me? I've been wronged, so I should seek vengeance. Why do you say I shouldn't seek vengeance? It's not my job. It's not my job because I am not fit for taking vengeance. I am not a fit person, and nobody is a fit person. No human being is a fit person to take vengeance. Why? Because we're all not perfect. In some way, we're all, not perfect. When it comes to seeking vengeance, you'll always go wrong when you leave it to people to take vengeance. You know why? Because they will not do it justly. They will not do righteously. It's not like God avenging. That will be righteous and holy and correct. There will not be any mistake in it. God is holy and correct and perfect and right. And so God saying, vengeance is mine. Thank God it's His. Otherwise, half the people will be dead, because somebody will be taking vengeance and be killing people, God says, the vengeance is mine. Leave it to me, He says. Why? Because people are imperfect. If you leave it in their hands, you're going to have total lack of order in this world, and you're going to have all kinds of problems because people won't do it right. When they take vengeance, you cannot guarantee that they'll do it right because they are not perfect. People are basically selfish. Selfishness is at the core of the human nature. When somebody else does something wrong, we talk about it as a big thing. Oh, you know what he did. But when we do wrong, we completely cover it up. We say, no, I didn't do anything wrong, brother. You have to understand. Because it's you we have to understand. It's others we don't have to understand. We can just open our mouth and mouth off everything that we want to. But when it's us, we have to understand. See, we are very biased towards us because self-interest rules with human beings. Human beings are people full of self-interest. So if your child did something, it's nothing big. If some other's child did some small thing, it's very big. You blow it up 1,000 times because of self-interest. Now, how can you depend upon such a human being to take vengeance, to administer vengeance, to make things right? He will not do it right. You cannot expect justice. You cannot expect things to be done in a righteous, true, just manner. That is why God says, don't bother with it. You are unfit. You are totally unfit to avenge yourself, to make things right. When wrong has been done to you, do not take it in your hand to make it right, because no human being will ever do it perfectly right. Why leave it to God? Because God is perfect. Because God is holy. God is good. And His vengeance is different from human vengeance. Human vengeance is different, We are filled with some kind of a passion and anger because what someone did to us, and we go and retaliate in a very violent manner sometimes, and it's out of this passion that rises from us. But God is not like that. God is always holy, is righteous, is just, and His vengeance is always controlled. His judgment is always controlled. He never does it out of passion. It's out of control. It's very controlled. No self-interest there. He's not selfish. He's got absolute righteousness, holiness, and justice on His side. Therefore, God's wrath, when God expresses wrath, it is always judicial and never vindictive. Never because of some passionate thing. It is always because that is the right thing to do, that is the just thing to do, that is the holy thing to do, that is what it must be done. God does things like that, See, even when a judge gives a judgment in this world, he's supposed to give it without any regard to any other thing. He must just go by the book. For the crime committed, he begins to judge that and gives the punishment. He's not got anything personally against that person. He should not have any feelings for the person in the sense that, that he lets him go or something. No. In case the accused person is one of his family members, the judge will himself request to be let off that case. He will say, please have some other judge. I can't do it because self-interest comes in. I may not be able to judge right because he's my relative. I may be doing some favor to him, so I'd get out of it, All these problems are there in human justice. it's very limited, and it's very full of these kinds of problems, that are there. But when it comes to God expressing wrath, it is like perfect justice coming from the Supreme Court of heaven, where God, who is holy, who is just, who knows all things and understands everything, who is all wise, does the exact right thing that it must be done. You can never call what he does as wrong or bad. So leave it to God. God says, don't avenge yourself. Don't do it yourself because you're not a fit person. Leave it to me. Let the wrath of, make room for the wrath of God. Give an opportunity for the wrath of God, or the judgment of God, justice of God. Leave room for God to make it right. That's what it means. The vengeance and wrath and all of those things must be understood in that way. Now, the devil even gets into some nice truths that we preach. He tries to come in there and twist it. When you hear something like that, the devil says, all right, what Pastor Sam says is right. Yeah, you've been thinking of taking vengeance, but what he says is right. You better leave it to God, because when God gives it to him, he's going to break his hands and legs and make him lay on his bed for the rest of his life. God is going to give it to him like you can never give him. So leave it in the hands of God. It's better than what you can do for him. God will really damage him. God will, do the right thing. Now, that is not the spirit with which this verse must be understood. If that's what you understand from this verse, that is not what it's saying. It is simply saying, don't avenge yourself because you are not a fit person to do that. You are incapable of just judgment, and that God alone is capable of it. So leave it in the hands of God. Give room to God to work there, and let God do that. Now let me read to you 1 Peter chapter 2, a verse that we read last week, but let me read it again. 1 Peter chapter 2. Let me read to you from verse 21. Peter is talking about Jesus as our example. He says, Jesus did that very thing. He left it to God. Look at this. For to this you were called, verse 21, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his footsteps, who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth, who when he was reviled did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but committed himself to him who judges righteously. Now, how many think Jesus got a real bad deal? He never did anything wrong, right? He never did anything wrong. Committed no sin, no deceit was found in his mouth. When he was reviled, he never reviled in return. When he suffered, he never threatened. Why not? The man did nothing wrong. Not one thing was wrong in Jesus' actions or words. Not one thing. Yet, he was they did him so wrong. What was done to him was total injustice. But what did Jesus do when he experienced that injustice? Look at this. This is what you should follow, he says. You should follow his footsteps. What did he do? He committed himself to him, to God, who judges righteously. Yeah, he was wronged, 100% wronged. And he could have done something there. He says, no, I'm going to set an example for all my followers who come after me as human beings. This new creation must have an example from me. Even though I can do something about these guys that put me on the cross and nail me and spit on me and all that, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave it to God and trust that God will do what is righteous and just and repay them for what they have done. God will do it. Therefore, I'm going to leave it to God. That's the thing that Peter quotes as the example of Christ. All right. Now, when you teach something like this, there's a lot of misunderstanding that comes with it. People say, well, look at that. Once again, the Christian teaching. It makes very flabby, passive Christians. You experience suffering, somebody troubles you, does all kinds of things against you, and you can't do anything. Because we're Christian, we can't do anything. So for a Christian, there's no justice. The guy who does anything against the Christian, there's no punishment. So we just have to bear it. and just forgive it and just live with it. There will not be any retribution, no punishment, no judgment, no wrath. Nobody to come and say, that's not right, that's not righteous, that's not just. Is that what Christian teaching is all about? Is Christian teaching saying that if you're a Christian and if you suffer injustice in this world, there is no recourse to it, there is no answer to that, you just suffer and that's it, that's where it ends? No, the Christian teaching is not like that. It is not some kind of a flabby passivism. That's not Christian teaching. What is Christian teaching? What is Christian teaching then? Some people say that's the spirit of Christianity. Just forgive, forget, that's it. Whatever somebody did, they never go through they never answer to anybody, they never are punished, there is no wrath that they will experience. No, the Christian teaching does not teach like that. Let me put what Christian teaching is in 4 or 5 points. 1, Christian teaching teaches that we must never seek personal vengeance. That's Christian teaching. Number 1, we must never seek personal vengeance because it's always wrong to avenge yourself. It's about personal thing. Personal vengeance is not right. Secondly, we must never desire harm to come upon our enemy. We must never desire harm to come upon our enemy. Remember what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, love your enemy. He says, you've been taught by the Pharisees, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemy. How do you love your enemy? You can't wish harm on your enemy. You can't wish for harm to come upon your enemy and love him. You can't. So, you can't wish harm or desire harm to come upon your enemy. But at the same time, we have to be, as Christians, concerned about truth, righteousness, justice, and about the glory of God. I cannot take personal vengeance. I cannot avenge myself. I cannot take personal vengeance because it's not right. I don't desire harm to come upon my enemy, but at the same time, wrong is wrong. Crime is crime. Injustice is injustice. And God's truth and righteousness and justice must prevail, and glory must come to God. If there is no justice in this universe, then that means there is no truth. That there is no God. So I believe that there is a God and there is truth. And therefore God's justice will prevail and God's righteousness will be proved and the glory of God will be there. I am concerned about that. So I'm not personally vengeful. I'm not wanting vengeance. I don't want to take vengeance. I don't desire to see harm done to my enemies. But I am concerned about truth, righteousness, and justice, and the glory of God. Fourthly, it is not only right, but it is our duty to desire that God's reign must be vindicated and extended, that God's glory must be manifested over the whole earth. What do I mean? It means this, that people who do wrong and go on doing wrong, go on doing atrocities, they believe that they are like God. There's no one to ask them, they're powerful, they can do it. They believe that there is no one to ask them, that they have all power in their hands and they can do whatever they want. What do I believe as a Christian? Do I believe there is no end to this and this is what it will be like? We just have to live with it and go on with it? This is the end of everything? No, I don't believe that. It is my duty to desire that God proves that He does indeed reign. These people don't reign. God reigns. And that His reign must be vindicated and extended. And His glory must be manifested throughout the whole earth. If it's not today, someday that God will take vengeance. There will be the punishment of the sinners. They will be taken to task. They will stand before this supreme court of heaven and this almighty judge one day and answer for everything that is wrong, done wrongly by them, and receive the just punishment from God. I desire that. As a Christian, I believe in that.
Casting my cares aside, I'm leaving my past behind. I'm getting my heart and mind on you, Jesus. I'm putting my hand to yours, believing that so much more, knowing that all you have in store for me is good. It's good. Today's the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today's the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I won't worry about tomorrow. Trusting what you say. Today's the day. Today's the day. Fears aside, I'm leaving my doubts behind, giving my hopes and dreams to you, Jesus. Reaching my hand to yours, believing so much more, knowing that all you have in store for me is good. It's good. Today's the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Today's the day you have made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I won't worry about tomorrow. Trusting what you say.